This is the A to Z podcast. Expert insights on leadership, business, real estate, investing, and growth.
Welcome to the podcast. I'm excited today. We're going to talk about how to rewrite our story. And I have the right person here who rewrote his story. He didn't stop there. Today, he's helping others to rewrite their stories. When I was sitting in front of him and heard his story, I was like amazed and even stunned how he could be able to rewrite his story. I've heard about people in gang and who left gang through TV, through drama, through books, but I never sat down in front of someone live in person and hear his story. And today you're going to hear his stories and what he's doing right now to help other people rewrite their stories. And his name is Pete Kennedy, and he's the founder of Your Talent Matters. Pete, thank you very much for being here.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me, AZ.
Yeah, let's start with a brief synopsis of who you are. We're gonna dive deep, but let's have like 60 seconds of who is Pete.
Well, the easiest way I can say it is these things, man. Talents, right? Um, I am a positive individual. I love talking to people. I love working with people. I ask a lot of questions. All of those similar things when we get into the story were things that I was doing from I was a little boy. I was born and raised in the island of the beautiful reggae Jamaica. Left the island at the age of 17 and resided in the US since. Love what I do. I'm an author, international best-selling author. I'm a speaker, and I like AZ says, I help people identifying that true story that they were called to do. So I'm honored to be here to talk about that today.
Before I heard your story, I was thinking like, I had a very tough youth and I was struggling and I was thinking my origin story was very challenging. But when you told me that you were in gang and you were shot at when you left and you were harmed and you kept on going, I want you to tell us about what it looks like to live in a gang and what it takes to walk away from that kind of challenging environment.
My gosh, you brought me back to over 23 years now. Um, the lifestyle is one that I would say that it keeps you on your toes every day, just like you're in business. Right. For those who have survived that lifestyle can tell you that if they were very successful, they're doing the very similar principles. We're just doing it from a more legal perspective. But you got to wake up every day and you're thinking of a couple of things. One, you have to think of the law enforcement, which is you're thinking of the cops. You're also thinking of your rival gang. At that time in Chicago, you have the Vice Lords, you have the Folk Killers, you have all these other, you have the Latin Kings. There's so many other gangs that existed while I was a part of what we call the Gangster Disciple. Again, that was years ago. Not only that, we had some guys that they were not a part of the gang. They just wanted to rob you if you were making some money. So the lifestyle was something that I would call keep you on your toes because you have to look out for everyone. But while I was in that lifestyle, let me be very clear, there was always something pulling me out. And, for those who have read the book and get the opportunity to hear the story, there was always an opportunity while I was in the gang that something was pulling me out. What happened is, while I was in the gang, I didn't have the right leaders that every time I went with an idea or every time I went with a solution, it got shut down because their mindset, their goals, their vision was limited. And the exact words that were told with me when I shared this with you when we sat down was, I was told, we are gangster disciples. We're not realtors, and that's not our business. And that's when I started to separate myself and say, this cannot be the lifestyle and other things that play to it. So it's not easy. I do not recommend it to everyone. A matter of fact, I don't recommend it at all. Let me be very careful on your podcast. I don't recommend it at all because you've heard many stories. I have friends who haven't survived. I have friends who are still arrested. I have friends who have not transitioned and got to the place where they're living a better life than that what it was, back then. I have friends who are still in the lifestyle. Not many of us survive. And that is why I'm taking my survival story to share with others to say, one, avoid it, and two, utilize the things that you have, that you were given. Let me just help you uncover them. So, I just want to make it very clear. That was my experience, and God allowed me to come through it because, like you said, I was shot, I was stabbed, I was arrested twice. God allowed me to have a clean background. God allowed me to survive the gunshot, the stabbing. Like those are things where I can stand here on the 15th of May and share this testimony for others from a growth perspective, right? So, but today, fast forward, the very similar.
Before we go there, I want to ask you one question because
Sorry, the excitement is coming out of the
I know,
past.
I know. Before you go there, this is one thing I experienced it at a lighter version of it, a lighter version of it. For example, when I was young, when I was still in my hometown in Ethiopia, in Harar, in the eastern part of Ethiopia, when you are a teenager, what do? You do is you chew chat, which is illegal in the United States, and you experience euphoria. At night, you go out, drink, and party. And I read two books, and those books transformed me. And I decided, you know what, I'm walking out from this lifestyle. It
Hmm.
was not like exotic, dangerous like a gang
Yep.
life, but that life by itself, you don't have any future. You're gonna be dead or sick or die prematurely when you continue to do that. I said I walk away, and I had two challenges, and I want to hear from you because you had also that challenge. My first challenge was to convince myself that there is a better future, because once you are in that kind of environment, you think there is no future, you don't have exposure. A good metaphor for me or analogy is if you put a frog inside a pit, and if you ask that frog how large is the sky, it will tell you that this much, because it can only see a portion of the sky
Hmm.
in that pit.
Hmm.
It doesn't know that the sky is limitless.
Yep. Yep.
The second thing you're going to be challenged is that you already formed friends, you have your peers, and
Yep.
if you violate one of the codes, written and unwritten, what happens is that you'll be called, you'll be ignored, you'll be even belittled, and so on. What I had was, when I decided I'm not going to chew, I'm not going to party, I'm not chasing women, immediately those people around me who liked me, who loved me, they start to walk away. They change the place where we used to chew chat. They change the place where we go to drink. They avoided me like a plague. It
Hmm.
was hard. As a teenager, your life is in that circle, your peers. I felt abandoned. There was a time was I was crying, and I was tempted to go back to that. Somehow, like you said, God helped me, and I
Yep.
walked away. Looking back, I was tempted so many times to say, you know what, I'm going back. I'm going back, putting my tail between my legs and going back to the gangs, the peers that I had. But somehow I walked away. In your case, what do you think prevent people, first of all, not to have exposure beyond the environment they are in, and
Hmm.
also once they realize there is option or alternative,
Hmm.
they struggle to leave that environment? I know you experienced that. What helped you to walk away from your colleagues and your peers?
Man, it was an experience in the Philippines. I was working for a huge communications company at the time in the United States here. I had moved from Chicago now, left the gang, and I'm in Florida here. And let me connect the how I left the gang. My dad had to die. Yes, I had to pause for that to sink in. Yes. My dad had to die for me to leave the gang. I got a phone call. I was standing on the street corner, Howard, and I'm not going to say the other corner just for, but I was standing there on Howard Street. Got the phone call from my brother. Hey, Stumpy. That's my nickname in Jamaica. Dad passed away. It was a sudden death. It hit me hard. My dad and I was very, very close, as you read in the book. And it hit me. I sat there on the street corners and I saw myself as a walking dead. If you've ever heard of that movie, right? One, again, I talk about the lifestyle that was around me, walking around with a gun at the time and all of these other things. I just saw myself as a walking dead. So I decided to change. But again, the atmosphere, the funds, the girls, all of these other things that played into it, the lifestyle kept me, right? And then what happened is I went home one day and I had a college friend that I was going to college with. And I went to school one day and I was having breakfast. And the very same positive, vibrant Pete, the cafeteria attendant, and I are good friends. So I'm there, I'm having a blast, having a conversation with her. And this Latin King walks up to me and he says, hey, throws up his gang signs. He's like, what's up, man? And I'm like, what's up? I realized that I had my red and black handkerchief in my back pocket. So he saw it and then automatically thought that I was a GD, and which was, but I didn't want to have a fight in school. So I said to him, hey, hold on, man. Let's just pause for a moment. Let's do this after school. And I said to myself, I have to come back to school. That's the one thing I did while I was in the gang, and many people didn't know. I stayed in school. I graduated October the 25th, 2002 with my first degree in computer information system, a bachelor's from DeVry Institute of Technology, which then, no, I'm sorry, DeVry University back then was Institute of Technology. So my first degree, I got it from DeVry while I was in the gang. And the gang members didn't know. So I didn't want to mess up this opportunity because I didn't know how I'm going to tell my mom, AZ, that I got expelled and kicked out of school because of gang. So I said, I have to solve this relationship, which is my number 2 strength, which is woo. So I'm sitting in the parking lot waiting on this schoolmate of mine, a rival gang member who I have to stand up to. And we're going back almost 30 something years now. So ladies and gentlemen, this is not a judgment for now, it's then. So back then I'm sitting in the parking lot, I'm waiting for him, AZ, and I share this with you, right? As I started to smoke and wait on him, he walks up. And as he walks up, he totally forgets that I'm in the parking lot waiting on him. So if my mindset was a true gangster, I could have hurt him. I could have done something, right? But I realized here's an opportunity to seal a relationship moment that will allow me to stay in school. So I said to him, hey, what's up? He's like, man, I'm having this problem. Totally forget about gang. He has a problem with one of his teachers. And here comes Pete with the talents. Ooh, I must say now, this is story, guys. I must say now, this is the Jamaican in me back then, where I had a lot of women. So a few of the teachers and I were very close, AZ. And the one teacher he had problem with, I told you, that teacher and I was very close. Problem solved. Him and I became very close friends. That turning point then allowed me to leave the gang because I had something else to connect to. So I'm going to the full change now. Move to Florida. My apartment burned down. God say, go. You got to move. Get to Florida, working for this corporation. And I'm now in the Philippines. And when I'm in the Philippines, I'm in Iloilo, the Philippines. And when I'm there, they're playing reggae music. Bob Marley, we're dancing in the club and we're doing all of these things. And this guy walks up to me and starts to dance with me, Pete, as if how I would dance with my wife. Now I'm Jamaican. That's not what we do, AZ. So my immediate natural culture reaction is to push. And when I pushed him, the entire club almost fought me. There was a young lady there. Coincidentally, her name was Jamaica because her parents named her after the island. And she stepped in because she traveled. And she says, guys, what are you doing? But because everybody's under the alcohol and it's culture, they just started to react. And I watched that night men kiss men on cheek, men dance with men. Men hug on men. Men hold each other hand to the car to make sure they're safe. Never seen it in my life. And I was astonished. And that's when I started doing the researching. Why is it that I've never had this love in my life before? Why is it I've never had this type of feeling before? Why I've never seen this before? I've traveled to all over the world and I've never seen this before. And I started doing this research and I found out that it was coming from some, what I would say, things that happened to us in Jamaica as men who are vocal, strong, upright, right? They would take us on the plantation, and what they would do is they would rape us in front of the entire plantation for the rest of the plantation to see. It would cause bucking or buck slashing. So look it up, right? And that would deter us. And that's why in Jamaica, if you say love to somebody, there's another guy, they look at you weird. If you say come here, they're like, why am I coming? Say forward. Like all these little things, just from a vocabulary perspective, just doesn't make sense, all because of what they've done to us through our love. So our men don't love, our men don't share, our men don't connect. So the youth suffer, the families suffer, the wives suffer, the business suffer, your finances suffer. And that's when I started to change. I'm like, Pete, I'm going to stop this. And I shared with you, AZ, that when I told my best friend the very first time I loved him, I've never heard him curse like that in his life before. Why? Because it was new, was never done. As friends, we've never told each other that, and we've done so much things that could have lost our lives and get us arrested. And the moment I expressed love verbally, it's the first time I've ever heard him curse like that in his life. So that was my changing point from an atmosphere perspective. And in the book, I shared with you that one of the things that I say for my island people is if I can take up the entire Jamaica, all the animals, all the insects, everybody, and spread them across the globe and bring them all back, they would see how much of appreciation they have, all the things that they have as a value, and not only that, how much similar we are in the world. So
Yeah, it's
for me, that was
go
the
ahead.
breaking.
Yeah, it's an amazing transformation. From your story, what I see that those experience that you had, for example, the passing of your father awakened you. And the experience you had with another rival gang transformed you. And the experience you have in Philippines was their culture
Yep.
also created a awakening which you
Yep.
didn't experience when you were in gang,
Yep.
that made you to leave the gang. The question I want to ask you, and I want to know how you look at this: should we wait until we are awakened by, for example, in your case, death of someone or an experience of something? Is there a way people who are maybe in this kind of environment right now, what kind of things should awaken them? Should they really wait until they experience some shocking experience? But why not move now? Why not walk away from now rather than waiting something to awaken you from a bad environment?
What should awaken you, or what should wake you up, are testimonies like what I'm sharing, but it's also written in the Bible and it's biblical. You learn from a wise man's mistake. So, as you've heard and have we've all seen, not many of us escape or get out of that lifestyle. You don't know what the next 5 minutes hold. You don't even know what the next minute hold. So, AZ, we don't know if we're going to survive it. I didn't know if I was going to survive it. But as I survived it, I held my head high and stood and tried to identify what my calling was so I can step into the thing that made me thrive, that made me wake up every day. So, what should wake you up is my story. What should wake you up is the experiences of others, to let you know that is not what I desire. And the reason I'm on this walk, and that's a very great question, is we need individuals like you and myself that are out there to surround ourselves with those individuals who need us to help them. Because one of the things as a life coach as well is that I understand that there are four behavior styles out there, and one of them needs support. That behavior style, which is the feeler, needs support. And if they don't get support, that's the behavior style that 9 times out of 10, we have to go down and pull up. The others can get a thrive in a little bit, but that feeler, they need you and they need me. So my story today, I hope inspires someone to tap into their God-given talent and know that if you wake up every day questioning what you're doing, I can help you.
Definitely, I agree with you. Someone who's listening right now, if they are in that kind of environment, it should not be in gangstership, but somewhere else. If the environment is not conducive and empowering, they should hear this story, especially when they hear you where you are today, what you're doing, and where you are going. They should see that there is a huge difference between who you were, who
Yep.
you are today, the potential, the possibilities for them. I also agree with you about reading books.
Mhm.
My life transformed. Look, I was in one of the poorest villages in Ethiopia. We didn't have TV, we didn't have bathrooms, we were deprived. We didn't have library around us. There was a teacher. I don't know what caused him to pick me among my peers. I still remember how it happened. It was a Saturday morning, a bright Saturday morning. Me and my friends, we were playing around on the ground. He one leg out, one inside his house, and he was calling me like this, pointing, come. He was a teacher, so I felt maybe what did I do? And I was contemplating the mistake I've done and what he's gonna do because he's a teacher, a very respected person. And he gave me 2 books and he said, read these books and return them. Back then, I didn't know what to do with those books. They were
Mhm.
in English. I was clueless about English compared to where I am today. It was in the 90s, and I was like, okay, what do I do with these books? And then I went, read those books. They completely transformed me. I could be able to see the potential, the future that I had, and that made me to walk away. And when I write books, people sometimes criticize me. Honest people, they say, why don't you wait a little bit until you have some kind of proof, until publishers approach you and ask you to write books? I don't wait until that. I don't have time. If possible, I want to write everything in me today. Why I do? Because one book
Yep.
could transform someone's life
Yep.
forever.
Yep.
And you can imagine the impact they bring to the world. And if there is one person who's going to read my book, I don't mind to spend years to write that book because I was changed because of those seemingly insignificant books given by a teacher. And I'm glad that your story is one way to have this transformation, to wake up, reading books, go out and read books,
Yes.
especially autobiographies, and biographies and autographs, biographies and autobiographies, because these are real stories. Books like yours, it could transform someone, and I'm glad that you mentioned that. Let me ask you this: you can comment on this, and also I want to ask you this question. Let's talk about mindset. I know that's one of your works.
Yeah.
Because it's all about mindset. We see that people are exposed to the same thing. They have the same opportunities, the same potential, but one make a different decision, empowering decision. Another one makes disempowering decisions. If they are in the gang, they stay in the gang.
Mhm.
It's a difference in their perspective and mindset. Tell me about the kind of mindset that someone should have to experience this kind of transformations. Believe me, where I am and you, where you are right now, we still need transformation, and we
Yeah,
need
of
to have,
course.
because we are evolving to the next level.
Yep.
Therefore, your message and your suggestions, what we should do in terms of our mindset to experience transformation, is applicable to everyone, not just people who
Yep.
are in gang or people who are
Of
messing
course.
around and having difficulties. Please, what kind of mindset do we
Yep.
need to have?
So the first thing is, right, before we get to mindset, we have to realize and understand what impacts the mindset, right? And the biggest thing that impacts someone's mindset is their surrounding. So the first thing we have to do, and my brother taught me this, I love to give credit to him, Mr. Major Marlon Kennedy, big up yourself, sir. He said, Pete, the moment you become acceptance, or you accept the reality of where you are, is the moment you can move. So what I mean by this is, if you understand, in your environment your mind is taking you somewhere else. And I talked about being in the gang and getting opportunities to purchase stores and stuff, but the gang limited it, because the gang atmosphere and mindset was, this is a gang. The moment I left that atmosphere and got into an atmosphere that allowed my creativity and my talents to come forth, and people to say, yes, I'm gonna give you an opportunity, go, then I started to see a little bit of the fruits. Because just like Jesus, he gave every one of those disciples an opportunity to do something that tapped into their talents. So we have to help others to elevate, and that's how we grow the mindset. When we help others to move along, it builds confidence in the mindset. So let me be very clear. The first thing about mindset is what impacts it is the atmosphere, where you are, the culture, the vibe, all of that does. If you see that that atmosphere is not working for you, you've heard it many times from many others and written in many books, you have to get up and move. Right? My grandma would say, show me your friends and I'll tell you who you are. It's the very similar things. Those old parables are the very same things we're writing in books today to say you got to get out of that atmosphere and get into an atmosphere of different people. Right? So from a transition, while in the gang, that's gang atmosphere, transition to Florida, where I'm now in the atmosphere of like-minded faith-based people. I'm growing my faith in that atmosphere. Moved over to faith and corporate. I'm in the corporate world, and people are saying, man, I love listening to you. You can teach. I'm going to give you an opportunity in the classroom. Come and teach this lesson. Oh my gosh, I can do that. I go to church. I talk to my pastor. Say, oh, you can do that? Oh yeah, well, go talk to the kids. Oh, the opportunity started presenting, started to speak, started to move this thing. The mindset started to change. Because then I realized that I was doing things that I enjoyed and tapped in, and I saw impact with others. So then I started to source that very same atmosphere to feed that very same mind. So the first thing to each and every one of you out there, if you want to change your mindset, look at your atmosphere. And if that atmosphere doesn't support the vision that God has given you, you got to start changing it. And once you change that atmosphere and fits it into the right fit, it'll start to soothe. And it's just like we would say, it's like growing a plant, right? I like to break things down. It's like growing a plant. If you're going to take a seed that needs a soil that is very moist, you can't take that and bring that up to North Florida and try to grow that seed. It's not going to grow. Right? So because of the atmosphere that that seed is put in doesn't fit the atmosphere, the plant won't grow. So you got to bring it back down south, or you got to bring it back to Jamaica, or you got to bring it back to one of these southern Caribbean islands and put it into a soil that fits the seed for the seed to grow. So the mindset is the same thing, where mindsets are in soils that are not allowing us to grow. So we have to find the right soil for the mind.
Two things I want to emphasize. One thing, you say that your environment, your subculture, where you are, your environment determines your mindset. And this is really true. If you pick someone, for example, an infant from a family which is not educated, they say they don't have good economic outlook, pick that child and put them into somewhere where they could be nurtured from childhood. They will be given education, and their mindset is configured in such a way that they believe in themselves, and then they have this mindset of I can do it. Yep. That the same child born in a family which has lack and no information and exposure can become totally a different person because of the environment. And what I see from people is, once they are in an environment, they think that's their destiny. They think it's not loyal to stay there. They say that God has a reason why I'm here and I'm going to stay. But when you read the Bible, you know that transformations happens, especially when people are moved, when people leave a disempowering environment. And therefore, I encourage people to decide that if this environment is not empowering, I'm not planted here and I should be here. I can unplant myself. I can go somewhere and plant myself. The second thing you said, which is powerful, is we're not like fixed in our mindset. We can transform our mindset, and the science supports that. If you study
Yep.
neuroplasticity,
Yep.
even if you are old, even if you think there is no way for me to have a different kind of mentality and psychology, you could, because neuroelasticity is very, very fast and
Yep. It is.
aggressive when you were a kid, like between 4 to 6. But even if you age, you can still reform your mindset. You can
Of course.
reconfigure
Yes.
your mindset. Do you have anything you want to comment on that before we go to the next comment? But
Well, definitely. One of the things biblically as well, when we talk about mindset, is we also have to remember that we were wired to do certain things. That's the other thing with the mindset. And because many of us don't understand what we were wired for, just like you're saying, AZ, we're trying to plug that mindset into something that doesn't fit. And that is why I love what I do when we talk about uncovering your talents and identifying these 10 things so you know where you show up. So when you find that specific plug and your mindset is plugged into it, you wake up every day feeling thrive, because now the mind is connected to the things that can be applicable, seen through results. So the other thing with the atmosphere is also we have to know exactly what the mindset should be connected to.
One thing I want to talk to you is about the importance of adversity,
Mhm.
setbacks, and challenges for someone to experience success. I have seen a lot of stories when someone doesn't have a lot of adversities and challenges, they don't develop resilience. But when you see people like you who were in a very difficult, adverse environment, when they come out, they have resilience and they succeed. That's why a lot of wealthy people, they don't want their kids to be very comfortable from childhood. They artificially create an environment where they have to overcome.
Mhm.
I want you to relate this with your story, to tell us this, the importance of adversity, the perspective we should have about adversity, because I know a lot of people, they don't take their chance, they don't walk away from bad life. Part of the reason is because they don't want to suffer, because they walk away from pain. But you and I know
Yeah.
without pain there is no gain. Tell me about your perspective, and if you have any stories you want to share about the importance of adversity
Well,
and
you know, I got the stories.
setbacks.
Definitely got the stories. And this one is very recent. Actually, today, on my social media, I posted about my son who got fives in his fast PM3 assessment at his third grade level, the highest score you can get. And I've been working with him and his brother for some time. And I shared on my social media that a couple of years ago, I was sitting with my mentor, Dr. John Maxwell, who I'm a part of the John Maxwell team. That's my John Maxwell certificate there. And John said, growing up, his dad never paid him to do chores. Not like you and I, where a mom would just say, hey, here's how you get a little money, go do some chores. He said his dad paid him to read, because reading would help him later on in life if he could develop that habit of reading. So his dad would make reading fun. Reading for me was, hey, you misbehave, go in the corner, pick up your book. So I tell people, when I wrote my first book and get into authoring, I am shocking myself, because this young man growing up didn't read. If I didn't have to read it, I'm not reading it. So when I heard that, I'm like, what? I could switch the whole mindset again. Now, again, I'm in my adult years because my son is only going to turn 9 soon, the youngest one, right? So when I heard this close to 7 years ago, because he was young then, and I came back with it, I told my wife, I said, hey, I'm going to have to put something in place because I'm switching it up. I'm going to pay them to read. And I said, guys, whatever is it that you want to read, go ahead and read it. I paid my eldest son $10 and I paid the little one $5. It doesn't matter how big or small, what topic the book is, right? Just read. And what happens, I find myself reading with them to keep them accountable based on what they were reading. But with him getting those fives, it's a proof that I'm saying to us as people that when we allow and support, right, the actual mindset, here's where my difference comes now with adversity as I'm living through it, right? My sons hopefully won't experience what I experience because I don't want them to. So their adversity is going to be different than mine. And this is why, as you said, wealthy people create something where they can put them sons in, or put their kids in a predicament or an experience where they understand a little bit of adversity. I feel different. I believe through experience, the God that creates us and serves us, yes, says we're going to go through little tribulations and trials, right? But we weren't created for us to just go through and have those lives of adversities. Why? I can tell you that I promise you 80% of those adversities, we cause them on ourselves because of the decisions we've made. So if we help our young people, if we help our community to tap into the right mindset and make sound, good decisions, they would avoid less of those adversities. Now,
I
what?
want to emphasize, Pete, because you mentioned about our community. I have the same kind of frustration about our community where we're not raising our kids with resilience. Part of the reason is culturally, you think the more you give them comfort, the more they become successful. And I'm going to share with you a story, and I want to hear more from you. Haile Gebrselassie, you may already know him. I don't know. He is a champion. He broke so many records, a long distance runner, globally celebrated uh, athlete. And one time he shared a story in a podcast how he was shocked when he heard that the lady who was supporting them, cleaning their space and giving them food and so on, was the elder sister of his agent, the one who was opening doors for him.
Mhm.
And when she told him, he said that I stood up and I was mad. How come he makes you work? He should have given you money, buy you house, and he should have left you in a comfortable environment. Why he makes you work? After listening to him, it was a long time ago, like 2 decades or so ago, when he was still running. Now he retired, and he's a businessman, very successful businessman. The lady told him that actually she's very lucky that her brother, her younger brother, hired her, and she got lucky because if she sits at home and if she's fed sitting there, she may go crazy. She rather prefer to work for him, which gave her the opportunity to know people like Haile, historic figures. She wouldn't have that opportunity if he didn't give her that platform. That transformed his mentality. He realized that that's in his culture where if you are one person is rich, everybody quits working, everybody retires, and that person. This is a killer for your
Yeah,
community, your country, your culture, because you
yeah,
want everybody to work. It's also it's a punishment to the people who are receiving the support because they are killing their potential. Anyways, what he did was he applied to his kids what he learned there, and he shared stories like, for example, when his kids were young, his wife tell him like, uh, carry their bag, take them to school. He asks his kids, who gonna eat this for? They would say, me. So of course, if you are the one eating it, you're going to be the one carrying it.
Yeah.
And also, I don't know whether that's in that podcast or somewhere else. I also heard that when they're asking money, like allowance kind of money, he says, okay, I'll give you, but you have to bring receipts. He want to make them accountable. And the story of John you mentioned also, it inspired me. Look, he was reading the top leadership books when he was in high school, and he was paid. That his father, the same story, tells him, if you read this book, I'll give you the prize for that book. You can imagine how much motivated he was. Look at where he is, one of the top leadership gurus. Why?
Now, let me ask you:
Yeah.
have you ever heard John share any sad, sorrowful, adverse story where he's now things happened in his life? They've had death and all of these things. But have you ever heard John share some of those, like I'm not gonna say like a story like mine, but something similar of that sort? No. And here's why, right? His dad invested and inspected what he expected and allowed him to avoid some of those adversities. And that is why I said what I said. So here's my question to lead to the answer, right? We all say success is different for everyone, correct?
Yeah.
It's the same for adversity. It is different for everyone. And that is why us as parents and pillars, men in our community, we have to stand up and help our young people and our kids to understand how to apply themselves and use their talents to minimize those adversities. And I'm glad you bring up Dr. John Maxwell, great example, which is at the story I'm just sharing. So going back to it, right? Those adversities coming all back to it, it's 80%. What if John never read those books? But he did. You get what I'm saying? So what are we doing to support the mindset? What are we doing to help the mindset? What are we doing to support the vision that we can help guide and direct to avoid and minimize the mindset, the adversities that may happen? I'll give you a biblical example, and I share this one all the time. One of the reasons I believe God was very upset with Moses is because he broke up the two pillars for the people to read to avoid adversities. So now there's nothing to read. So now the people have nothing to go back to hold themselves accountable with God. So now there's all type of adversities, because what? There's nothing on paper or on what we call bricks and pillars at that time. In my understanding, that was one of the main reasons he was upset. He says, we did all of this work for the people to read 5 on 5. Oh my gosh, that's a new story. I've never told it this way before. The two pillars, 5 on 5, 5 commandment, 10. The same top 10 we talk about in Clifton Strength. The same top 10 I talk about your talents. The same top 10 that each and everyone have uniquely created with. Oh my gosh, thank you, Jesus. I'm sorry, I'm getting I have to go a faith-based
You're
move
preaching
right here, because this is how it happens for me. Is as I tell the stories, God give me more in the knowledge with it, right? But just like that, there was nothing left for the people to connect with when we take away the very thing that thrives us. So just like John Dad did, just like what I'm trying to do and you're trying to do, is to minimize some of those adversities for my sons and the people around us if they listen and follow. Because I know as a dad, I'm not leading none of my two boys down any wrong road. As a father, I know that. So I know my Heavenly Father in doing the same to me, right? So if they listen and follow and guide, and like I said, 5 in reading, 5 in math, my little one, and the big one doing well, all because, and I said this to them almost every day, if you don't show up, who shows up for you? Because there is no other Pete A. Kennedy in this world. And if I don't, who will? So the mindset, the adversities is all per home, per person, based on the decisions some of us have made. Not talking the little ones, but some of us.
Yeah, one of the most important things we should understand is that the mindset is formed when we're young. You and I, we discovered it when we are teenagers or young adults.
So
That's
were
the
you there?
this,
And this is podcast, so it's communicate. Were you there when Dr. John Maxwell brought Bruce Lipton, Dr. Bruce Lipton,
yep,
and
yep,
Dr. Bruce
biologist,
Lipton
yes,
shared with us that the first 7 years of your life is programming. If you
exactly.
program that right, years you can't miss. And that's what I try to do with my little ones, and I try to tell it with people, and I start giving it out now. So I'm glad you were there. Dr. Bruce Lipton said those very first years, regardless of where you are in the world, his
I
words
encourage,
were, if
yeah,
you give me a child, I'll give you a programmed adult.
exactly. I encourage people to read his book,
Yes.
The
Yes.
Biology of Belief.
Mhm.
And the science is very impressive because the science is we are pre-programmed while we are in the womb, even before that. Because think about it, we're not just inheriting the hardcore
Yeah.
DNA from our bloodline, like the appearance of our face, our statue,
Physiques.
our color. That's not the
Yep.
only thing we are inheriting.
Yep.
We are also inheriting the epigenetic, which is their psychology,
Yep.
their mindset. That's why we say, "Oh, you're like your grandma," or "You drink like your grandpa, or you're angry like your aunt," because there is a genetic blueprint,
Yes.
epigenetic, and there is
Definitely.
also an experiment that have been done to show us the impact of how we are configured before we even come to the womb. Once we're in the womb, we're also programmed, and like you said, up to 6 and 7 years, these are the formative years. Programming, think about it. If you have been programmed during those period with great stories, possibilities, potential, you overcome so many setbacks because you have been already programmed to overcome them. You may not even face them at all because you are pre-programmed. The problem that I see, a lot of people don't understand that.
Yep.
They don't program their kids. They don't program them when they
Because
are
that
young.
programming takes investing, a Dr. A.
Yes.
It
Yep.
requires you to get up when you don't feel like getting up. It requires you to read the book that they just read, and you don't want to read the book because it's just 5 pages, or the book is now 35 pages. It's the investment that requires us as the supporters that is.
And also, they don't want to. These are kids. They love them. Who doesn't love kids? And they think if you tell them to read books, if you tell them to exercise, or if you tell them to reflect, you think you're hurting them. That's what Haile was sharing. His wife was thinking he was helping them if he carries their
Mhm.
bag, but
Mhm.
for him, he's teaching them accountability.
Yep.
They won't be hurt by that,
No.
but it teaches them a lesson.
Yep.
And he's already rich. He doesn't need to receive their receipt when they spend money, but he's teaching them accountability. Now
Yep.
they inherit his business. They know what accountability means. When he makes them accountable, they don't take it personal. He was programming them when they were kids, and that's normal. A lot of family. I was having an interview with one very, very popular Ethiopian channel. It was in Amharic, and I was sharing about how family businesses in Ethiopia struggle. I'm sure in other cultures also family businesses struggle because the first generation becomes successful and then the business dies when they die. Part of the reason is because they were not raising their successors from childhood. They didn't program them. And these kids, when they grow up, they have money, they have luxury, but they have never been programmed to overcome challenges. They were not mentored, they were not prepared because they thought that was pressure. They thought that's hate. They thought we are constraining our kids. And I think in our communities, we need to understand that the game is when kids are still young.
Ozzy, I'm not sure what happened. I don't see my camera anymore. Can you see me?
I kind of you may have internet connection issue. You are froze, but we hear you.
Hang on a second here. Um, I don't know what happened. It just went.
But we hear you. You can continue.
Okay, okay.
Yeah,
I-
we hear you. Yeah.
So
And
you're
you are
absolutely
frozen.
right.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right from the perspective, when we talk about those particular things. And that is why, for me, it's very important that when we talk about who you are, when we talk about your mindset, to the audience, please take time to reflect and connect on your God given talents. Those God given talents are connected on your two hands, either your right hand or your left hand. But working both of them together, you'll wake up on a daily basis knowing how to serve using those very same things you were given.
It looks like you are still frozen, but since we hear you, we're going to continue to talk about. At least we are hearing you. We talked about how it is important to develop the mindset to experience transformation, and we talked about now we see you. That's awesome. So we talked about how important to help kids configured in such a way that they experience success and transformation. They don't need to pass through what we have passed
Correct.
through. But even if you are adult, we say that you still have a chance because there
Of
is
course.
neuroelasticity. You could be able to still to change. I want to shift the gear and talk about the place of discipline.
Hmm.
You can have great vision, you can have great mindset, you may even overcome some setbacks, but if you don't have consistency, if you don't have habits, if you don't have discipline, this journey of finding your purpose, pursuing it, and done by the end of the race is not for faint-hearted. You have to have discipline. Can you tell us a little bit more about your discipline, what you do, your habits, and also what's the place of discipline, resilience for people to experience transformation and rewrite their stories?
So the first one from a discipline perspective that has changed my life, all my clients, and everyone who has tried this is this: offer the best version of you to everyone that you meet for the first time. Dr. AZ, when we met, I told you the same thing. I get the opportunity to offer the best version of me to you because I'm not bringing 46 years of things that I'm working on into a relationship, that things that I can fix. So what many times we do as people is we meet new people and we go, oh, I don't know them, so I'm not, I don't trust them. Now, the relationship you and I have is not one very intimate into business for me to actually share personal details, but you have done nothing for me not to trust you. And I have done nothing for you not to trust me. So why do I not trust you? So that's the first thing with the mindset as well. Our mindsets have to change how we look at relationships and we look at people. Because put yourself in that other person's shoes. Do you want to be trusted with somebody that you meet for the first time? Of course, because you've done them nothing. And I've asked this to preachers, pastors, lawyers, doctors, everybody. And it's probably just a 0.001% where I've had somebody say yes, because they've understand what I'm saying. Majority of everybody else says no. Why? Because society tells us, I don't know you, so I don't trust you. I don't know you, so I'm not going to tell you anything. It's what you tell and how you tell it. Because Pete is very clear. And for those of you who know Pete, I'm private. You don't know a lot of stuff about me, but there's so much you know about me that can't hurt me, that connects relationship. So when we talk about the move, understand the first thing is changing the mindset towards people. Now, Dr. AZ, I've had clients and people say, oh, Mr. Kennedy, I'm not an outgoing person like you. I'm not an extrovert. I'm an introvert. Ladies and gentlemen, that's a lie. Stop it. God did not create introverts and extroverts for one of us to connect to people and the other didn't. That's not the God that I know. So here's what: whether you're introvert or you're extrovert, I want you to ask yourself, don't you meet people, or you meet at least someone new at least twice a day? I'm sorry, 2 times for the week. I would say once a day for me, because I'm out there and I'm every day I meet someone new. Dr. AZ, I've known you for close to 2 months now. It's not even 3 months that we've known each other. My good friend Lorraine Nelson Walker from Jamaica, who and I are John Maxwell connected, and she says, Pete, you gotta meet Dr. AZ. Dr. AZ, you gotta meet Pete K. Kennedy. We connected at Starbucks, had a wonderful connection, and here we are today. But I'm offering you the best version of me. That's how I grow. That's how my relationships evolve. Now, with that being said, everybody doesn't get Pete address to come and hang out. Everybody doesn't get, but everybody gets an individual approach based on the fact of how we met and where the relationship is going. But you get the best of me. Let me give you an example with the best of me mean. As a young boy growing in Jamaica, my experience, let me be very clear for the Jamaicans who may listen, growing up in Kingston, Jamaica, I was from a city called Almontown. I still go back there a lot. If you look at my social media, see I'm doing a lot of work in Almontown. Growing up in Almontown, from the time I know myself till the age of 17 when I left, we just tell lies. We say stuff we don't mean. We make promises we know we're not going to fulfill. Right? So from that, and not only that, my mom gave me a nickname on top of Stumpy, Promise, because my dad promised to take me to the countryside from the time that I recall till the time I left the island. And we never had cell phones then, so he would get up and leave early the Saturday morning, and I never see him until Sunday afternoon. I can't do that now because Jace will pick up the phone and call me on video. Dad, where are you at? Right? So my mom called me Promise, which was his behavior style, casting that on me, and I became a young man that was not a man of my word. And I always tell people, in the beginning was the word was with God. So we would talk about that again. You got to be people of your word. If you can't do it, you can't do it. If you can do it, you can do it. If you messed up, you messed up. If you whatever it is, just be a person of your word. And I've seen that taking me to many places because I stand on the fact that I'm going to offer the best version of me to you. And that's the only way I can grow. And Dr. John Maxwell says as well, we grow faster the more we're uncomfortable. So when I meet someone new and I'm uncomfortable, I'm just, because Pete Kennedy know what to share. The reason you got my story so in depth is because you shared what you were doing and how we can connect on your podcast. But most people who meet me for the first time would not hear my gang lifestyle. They won't, you know what I'm saying? So I understand.
Even that's the story. You shared it in the end. You remember we were talking. In the end, I actually asked you, why didn't you tell me this first?
Right.
But by the way, I really, this is a great insight that you are offering, which is the discipline to appear with your best version with everyone, keep your words, and be consistent.
Yes.
These are the kind of disciplines. And when you study high performers, people like you see that they have certain habits.
Yes.
They're not casual. They're not by chance. They develop these habits and disciplines on purpose. Sometimes I meet people, communicate with them, and they don't keep their words and they don't care. And also they do certain casual things, and I go back and say, do they understand the impact of this? They may not know it. It could be subconscious level, but you're sending a message for people not to trust you, people not to work with you, people not to partner with you, recommend you to others. And therefore, we need to have this discipline. We have to bring our best version, like you said. We should also keep our words and be always consistent. If we do that, we have a chance to transform. We have just 2 minutes. Any last minute word, or how can people find you? Website or any contact information?
It's pretty easy. Go to PeteAKennedy.com. My name, PeteAKennedy.com. You go to that website. I'm inviting you to our annual YTM event. It's coming on June the 13th, just 1 week before Pete Kennedy Day. That's my proclamation. Pete A. Kennedy Day is on the 20th of June. And it's my youngest son who said, Dad, you have to celebrate that. So we do YTM. This is where you come in and I help you identify your top 10 talents, which is what we talk about. How you use those top 10 talents every day and tap in. We have guest speaker coming from Morehouse School of Medicine, the chief financial officer and executive vice president, Gerald Hector. You can't miss that. We'll be in Lauderdale Lakes. Go on my website, check it out. Come on down and tap into your talents. We have half of the year left. You can reset. And also check out my theme song on the website. Looking forward to seeing you there. And I know, AZ, you're going to be in the room.
Definitely, I'm gonna be there. Thank you, Pete. I really appreciate you. You are a very busy man, but you carved out time to be here. We
You're
appreciate
welcome.
you. Everyone, please reach out to him. Go to his website, attend his event if you are local. Read his book, an amazing story of transformation. Give that book as gift to other people, especially if you know someone who is in bad environment, toxic environment. That's the book you want to give it to them. Thank you for being here. We appreciate you for your participation. Until I see you with another story, another podcast, thank you very much and have a great day. Bye bye. Thank you.
Bye bye.